I've just finished the sculpting of my little turtle, and I'm really pleased with the high resolution details that I've added across the surface of the skin of the turtle. It's looking pretty great, and I'm ready to advance into the texturing stage of my fun little character. At this point within the production process, however, we need to be a little bit careful and mindful of the media that we're managing and the files that we're working with. We're going to split our project file into two separate FBX files. One is going to contain the low-res version of our sculpture that has the good topology, the good UVs, and all of the material associations within the model itself. The second is going to be the high-res sculpture that's going to contain all the geometric information that I've toiled and added into the sculpture itself. So we're going to have two different files that are all going to stem and branch, if you will, from one single Blender file. We begin with the production of our high-res sculpture, which is actually the easy part. If you take a look at the way I've organized my scene here, I have two different objects. I have one, which is the body, and then I have another object for the shell itself. Both of these objects are using the multi-res modifier to create the illusion that you see in front of you. Before we export it out, it's a good practice to go in and maybe, I don't know, let's go in and apply all of these modifiers before we go any further. When you apply the modifiers, we bake all of that information. We flatten all of our modifiers onto the geometry, and it almost guarantees that what we're going to export from Blender is going to work. It's going to be included and incorporated correctly inside the larger texturing workflow over in Substance Painter. So that's what I'm going to do real fast. I'm in object mode. I'm on my shell object, and let's just apply it. I'm on version layer 3 for my shell, and this one I have 5 layers of subdivision, and let's apply that as well. So this is going to be the high-res mesh, and it's going to be a geometrically intense file. The combined geometric load of both of these objects is rolling in just about 6.5 million polygons. There's a lot of geo in here. If this is too heavy for your computer, one of the things that you could do is that you can run an additional modifier called decimate. What this is going to do is that it's going to triangulate and try to geometrically reduce the amount of polygons across the surface while preserving all the wonderful detail that we added in. I can't run it right now because it takes forever for the computer to process all of this information, but what you're going to get is an exact copy of what you see here with all of the details still preserved. You're not going to lose any of that information. It's going to bake it into a whole series of triangles, and on my computer it just takes a while. So I encourage you to look at that process if you're engaged in this, or if you find that the high-res file is just really unusable within your local computer. For me, it's going to work just fine. We're not actually going to be loading the high-res file into Substance Painter, but we are going to be accessing it. With both of my modifiers applied to my object, the last thing that I want to do is that I want to apply all of my transforms on both of the objects that I've created. This is a great kind of finishing step for the sculpture to ensure that everything that we've done to the sculpture is going to be in this location inside of our three-dimensional scene. So it's a final step that I always do. And now, with both of these objects selected, I'm going to export out the FBX. Substance Painter is looking for FBX files, so we want to make sure that we're given it FBX. Okay, so also, when it comes to the media management of all this, please make sure in the file name itself you're putting like high res or something that really denotes to you that this is a high res version of the version 13 or whatever version of the sculpture that you're working on. But we just want to make sure that we understand its role and its purpose inside the larger system. Okay, let's go ahead and export out the FBX file. And then voila, once it exports, we're done. And we don't have to worry about that high resolution sculpting information anymore. With the conclusion of this export, we'll be able to go back into the project file and start preparing the version of my sculpture that is actually going to get textured over inside of Substance Painter. FYI, if you're noticing here, my computer is chugging and thinking about it on the export of all of this information. It's sending out a 6.5 million polygon mesh, and on certain computers, and I don't necessarily have the fastest computer, it's just going to take a minute or two. But luckily, you only have to do it once, and the rest of this process is going to go pretty fast because we'll be working throughout the rest rest of the production pipeline with a version of the model that is only maybe 50,000 polygons versus 6.5 million polygons. So it's going to go pretty fast from here on out.